All right, let's jump right into a wild one. What if every single volcano on our planet erupted at the exact same moment? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a blockbuster disaster flick. But trust me, by digging into this crazy question, we're going to uncover some absolutely incredible truths about Earth.
Now let's be super clear right from the start. A global eruption like this, it's pretty much impossible. Volcanoes don't have some kind of shared-on switch. But by really exploring this thought experiment, we can learn some amazing things about the power that's just simmering right under our feet and the delicate balance that keeps our world alive.
Okay, so first things first, just how many volcanoes are we even talking about here? Well, on land, scientists have pinpointed about 1,500 that they consider potentially active. And yet, that alone is a staggering number to imagine all going off at once.
But wait, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Literally. The real shocker is what's hiding down in the oceans. The best estimates, they suggest there could be over 1 million active volcanoes under the sea. So the true scale of this event, it's more than 1,000 times bigger than what we can even see.
So, let's get into it. Just how powerful would this impossible eruption actually be? We're going to try to wrap our heads around a cataclysm that is, frankly, beyond all comprehension.
This right here, this really puts the scale into perspective. You've heard of the Tambora eruption back in 1815, right? It was the biggest in recorded history, so powerful it caused the year without a summer, all from just 160 cubic kilometers of stuff blown into the air. In the scenario we're talking about, Tambora would be like a tiny firecracker at a massive fireworks show. We are talking, without a doubt, about an extinction-level event.
Let me put it another way. In an average year, all of Earth's volcanoes, all of them combined, produce about 4 cubic kilometers of magma. Our scenario unleashes thousands of times that amount, all in a single, terrifying burst.
Okay, so with that kind of insane power unleashed, the immediate consequences would be, well, catastrophic. The planet itself would be under siege, starting with the very ground we're all standing on. The second this all kicks off, you'd have absolute tectonic bedlam. The entire planet's crust would be shaking, and not just for a moment, but continuously. The ring of fire would light up from one end to the other. The strain from releasing so much mass from inside the planet would be so immense, some geologists even think Earth's very axis of rotation could start to wobble.
But you know, the chaos on the ground is just the beginning. As we look up to the sky, this quote from a geologist really captures the next terrifying stage. Earth would be pitched into complete dark.
Billions upon billions of tons of ash would get blasted into the atmosphere, creating this thick planetary shroud. And we're not talking about just a cloudy day. This is a global volcanic night that could last for years, maybe even a decade. All sunlight gone. That means photosynthesis stops, and surface temperatures go into an absolute freefall.
And this is where we'd see a total planetary collapse. That initial shock, that's just the first domino. It sets off this cascading failure through Earth's deeply interconnected climates and ocean systems.
The planet would experience this horrifying climate whiplash. First, you've got the initial phase, lasting up to a decade, which would be a brutal volcanic winter. But after that, a second, completely opposite crisis would take over, a runaway hothouse fever. So here's the crucial thing to understand. It's this devastating 1-2 punch. First, the ash and sulfur aerosols block out the sun, causing global temperatures to plummet by as much as 15 degrees Celsius. Caustic acid rain would fall from the sky, poisoning everything. But once that ash finally settles, the massive amount of volcanic carbon dioxide that was also released starts to do its thing, trapping heat and shoving the planet into an extreme greenhouse state.
And the oceans, they wouldn't stand a chance. They'd get hit from every possible angle. Tsunamis from all those underwater eruptions would just scour coastlines clean. The acid rain would make the surface waters corrosive, dissolving the shells of marine life and completely collapsing the food chain from the bottom up. Then, the ocean currents could just fail, creating these fast, oxygen-starved dead zones.
So, the result of all of this, combined, a mass extinction event. And we're not just talking about losing a few species here and there. We are talking about a biological annihilation on the scale of the Great Dying, which happened about 252 million years ago and wiped out over 90% of all life on Earth. So, in a world that's collapsing first into ice and then into fire, what would happen to us?
Well, this would be humanity's final chapter.
For us, for human civilization, the collapse would be unbelievably swift and total. It would be like watching a row of dominoes fall one after the other. First, the heavy ashfall would cause roofs to collapse, literally burying entire cities. This would immediately take out our infrastructure, power grids, transportation, communication, all of it. And without that, access to food and clean water would vanish, leading to a complete and total breakdown of society.
The day-to-day reality would be, well, simply unsurvivable. The air itself would turn toxic. You see, volcanic ash isn't soft like soot, it's pulverized rock and glass. Breathing it in would be like inhaling microscopic shards, just shredding your lungs. With all the water contaminated and no way to grow food, global famine would be a certainty.
It's a world where one scientist's chilling conclusion just rings so true. The lucky ones would be the dead. Surviving the initial cataclysm would just mean you'd have to endure a slower, more agonizing end.
But what if something could survive all of that? What kind of world would even be left behind when the dust, literally finally settles?
The Earth we know would be gone. It would be fundamentally transformed into this hostile, alien planet. Even after the ash clears, the sky would stay hazy. The climate would be locked in that runaway hothouse state, and the landscape would just be barren, sterilized.
And what about life itself? Well, this mass extinction would permanently change its course. A recovery would take millions and millions of years. Evolution would basically get a hard reset, starting all over again from the few tough microbes that could somehow survive deep in the sea or far underground. Complex life, as we know it, would be gone for good.
Okay, after walking through that absolute nightmare scenario, we have to ask the most important question of all. Could this actually happen? It's time to step back from the brink and look at reality.
And the answer, thankfully, is a big, resounding no. A simultaneous global eruption is just not in the cards. It's impossible. See, every volcano has its own unique plumbing system, its own localized triggers. There is no global switch. So while this has been a pretty terrifying look at the raw power our planet holds, it's ultimately a profound reminder of the incredible stability that allows life to exist here in the first place.